Welcome to the final legal talk for 2022. It's nice to have Merilynn Plessis with me today as we round things off and close up for the year. Legal talk back again in January with Hahn and Hahn attorneys. Merilynn, first of all, it is very, very nice to chat to you again. How have you been?
Ian, also always a pleasure to hear you. Season greetings as well for you. It's going well. I can't complain. We are having all the side effects and the after effects of COVID. That which we missed is definitely all coming in with a bang.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but anyway, so today we are ending off the year with some more listener questions. And they are very similar. The one person is complaining that his or her neighbor is making alterations to their home, and the noise is unbearable. He or she says it's during daytime and starts early in the morning, and then sometimes it goes on until after sunset. And then this person's trying to contact the neighbor, but he is ignoring her or his or her messages, and the person's asking, what can I do? And then another one that was very similar, so we'll cover them both, is my neighbor's dogs are barking all day and all night. They bark at absolutely anything. I mean, we've seen that before. Sometimes at nothing. Yes, sometimes they just bark because they can. I can't sleep or concentrate when I'm studying at night. I've spoken to them about it, but nothing happened. What can I do? So in this case, we have two scenarios where people have neighbors who aren't very considerate, and they're not doing anything about it, and they're also avoiding communication. So today we're asking, what does the law say? And that brings us to the first question, Merilynn. Do I have a right that I may exercise relating to noise?
Yes, Ian. So all the times you and I speak, it seems like all the topics are constitutionally protected rights.
Yeah.
Which is very good. It's good because it's a very solid and firm right that a person has. But this one will fall under the constitutional right to an environment. So it's one of our fundamental rights. And as with all the rights in the Constitution, to give effect to them, to be able for us to enforce it, the state has to provide for legislation that gives effect to it. And one of these legislation that has given effect to this right is contained in the Environmental Conservation Act, number 73 of 1989. And in this act, Section 25 of the Act provides and enables the Minister of Environmental Affairs to create such regulations that deal with inter alia noise. This has indeed happened. The Minister has established the noise control regulations, and important to note, and which will be a little bit highlighted in the rest of the conversation, the powers of the municipalities, each provincial municipality, to enforce these regulations.
And Merilynn, I mean, what kind of noises can I report? Are all noises reportable? I mean, you probably can't phone about something really silly.
Yes, exactly. So it's difficult, especially I think with a barking dog, whether to consider if it's reasonable. I mean, everybody has dogs. Can I make a complaint against a barking dog? So the regulations are actually very wide and very broad, and I'd say it's all encompassing. It gives two definitions of noise which can be reported. The first is a disturbing noise, and the second is a noise nuisance. We'll discuss the latter. The former, which is a disturbing noise, means any noise which exceeds a certain sound level, and if no sound level has been designated by a municipality, any noise level which exceeds an ambient sound level at measuring over 7 decibels or more. We won't discuss it for this topic, but it's very interesting to note that, some sounds have to be measured and they measured at their decibels. The relevant definitions would be a noise nuisance, which means any sound which either disturbs or impairs or may disturb or impair the convenience or a peace of any person. Although that can be now very subjective, depending on who's sensitive to noise. For this, the municipalities have a broad, I would say, discretion to decide what is a noise nuisance. So the municipality has the regulations make it an offence to commit either noises which we've just discussed in general, so they have a discretion. And then in addition, there's specific regulations regarding noise nuisances, which is the one that's relevant for us, which are prohibited. And these include noises that comes from any premises, a vehicle or street. So in this instance, residential areas. So that's one of our first ticks. And then some of the specific noise nuisances which are prohibited include noises from construction work, which would be the alterations of the consumer and the listener that we've received, from music, and noises made by animals. And then in the second scenario, which is relevant to the discussion, includes a dog. Mm-hmm. So we have specific ones, and then we have general ones which are left to the municipalities to determine.
Okay, and we like to ask the question, and always on Legal Talk, what are my rights? So in this case, what are my rights regarding these noises made by my neighbor and their dogs?
Okay, so as I've mentioned, two of these two, the constructions or the alterations, let's say, are two of the prohibited noises. The regulations, in terms of the regulations, it's an offence, and no person may allow any animal on their premises to create a noise nuisance. And then in terms of construction works, which is very interesting, despite the myth of noises, making a noise from a certain time until 10 o'clock in the evening, the regulations say any use of a power tool or a power equipment for construction, or anyone who is not allowed to either to cause it or cause it to be used, and they're not allowed to be doing this before 6 o'clock in the morning and until after 6 o'clock in the evening, from Monday to Saturday. So, in other words, your neighbor is permitted to do construction work between 6 o'clock in the morning and 6 o'clock in the afternoon. And then they are not permitted to do any construction work at any time on a Sunday, a Good Friday, an Ascension Day, the Day of Covenant, and Christmas Day, or any other day which is held by the municipality. So I hope that answers that.
Okay, so they've got a lot of time. I mean, 6 to 6, that's 12 hours that you can construct and do whatever you want to do. Of course, the dogs always bark between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. That's the other way around, yeah. So that's a different story.
And it's interesting to note that although the regulations do give us times for the construction work, as we've discussed previously, it will also depend on a case-to-case basis. So if this person is extending his house, he actually has to, obviously, before you extend your house, you have to submit plans, etc. And a part of those submission of plans, the municipality will have a discretion also to require that neighbor to do a sound impact assessment. And if the municipality in those applications and granting of those plans has seen that there's an impact assessment needed, obviously, because I would say these construction works during the time would more focus on, I would say drilling in a picture or a frame into a wall, not literally constructing a house. And in those instances, a person would have to comply with sound impact assessments. The unfortunate thing is that not everybody submits plans to build their houses, but it gives a tool to your neighbours to go and report to the municipalities as well.
And that's a good thing. Merilynn, what am I to do if I have such a complaint?
Okay, right. So it's very simple. As we've said, it's the municipalities in each provinces that need to enforce these regulations. So what each municipality has done is they'll either create a bylaw, which is their own legislation which they follow, or they'll also issue a noise regulations under their province, and this will become available on their website. And if it's not available on their website, it will be available in the bylaws, and the municipality has to make it available to the public. So my first step would be to search the relevant municipality, search for their bylaws, and their bylaws should have procedures in actually submitting a complaint.
Okay, and our final question for today, Merilynn, how will my complaint be dealt with?
Okay, so, and I think this might be the bite that the listeners are listening for and hoping for, but the regulations empower municipality to either go and inspect a premises, and I've actually had issues with municipalities inspecting premises. So once they've received a complaint, they'll inspect your neighbour's premises, and if they find that there is indeed such a noise disturbance, they will issue a notice to your neighbour. These notices will include, would say, compelling orders for your neighbour to remedy the noise disturbance, not necessarily remove it, but just to remedy it, to mitigate the impact. And if they don't comply to that, so this is very interesting, that neighbour can be submitted to a fine or imprisonment. The fine not being more than 20,000 Rand or imprisonment not more than 2 years. But what's very important is after the notice is given to the neighbour and the neighbour fails to comply with such notice, they can suffer a fine of not more than 250 Rand a day or imprisonment of 20 days for each day that neighbour fails to comply with a notice.
I've never seen that. I must be honest with you, Merilynn. Somebody going to jail or maybe paying the fine, but not going to jail for something like this.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine, and these issues are actually quite persistent in residential areas. So I can imagine some of the municipalities taking that lightly. I would say the quieter municipalities that actually have place in prisons. But then just to conclude, for those people who have issues with the barking dogs, a municipality is actually entitled to impound the animals if the neighbour doesn't comply with the notice.
Oh, my word. Yo, I didn't know. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yes. Okay. Yeah, okay, so that's enough motivation to do something about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's good news. I think it would be good news for listeners. But obviously, my first point of advice is, always try and resolve the issue. But I mean, what we've heard now from the listeners is they've already tried. So I would say, step to your municipality.
That's it. So it depends how good your municipality is. And don't even try doing it in a body corporate, in a complex, because that body corporate, they'll be all over you, hey? You've seen how strict body corporates can be.
Yes.
Jeez.
They're extremely strict, which is quite comforting. But I mean, obviously, your contract's going to be giving you strict enforcement, and they check. And there's always, I like to call it Sunday news tunny. Walking around the complexes, inspecting who's doing what.
Yep.
And we'll report it to the body corporate.
Yeah, if one car is just parked slightly off its parking spot, then you can expect a knock on your door. I've seen that before. Or you maybe have a towel draped over a wall or something, then it's an issue.
Oh, dear,
They are very, very, very strict.
They're very, very, very strict. I agree with you.
Well, Merilynn, on that note, that's it for today's topic. Thank you, as always, for your great input, and not only today, but for this entire year. It's much appreciated. And I look forward to next year.
It's a big pleasure. May everyone have a blessed season. And I hope that you and everybody can actually rest and enjoy some family time during this time.
And I hope the same for you, Merilynn. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to you and your family and also your colleagues there at Hahn and Hahn. We'll chat again in 2023.
Thanks, Ian. Take care.
You too. Thanks, Merilynn. Bye.
Bye.
Are you or your business in trouble and struggling to find a solution? Call Hahn and Hahn Attorneys as we assist clients in finding solutions. We specialize in consumer and food law, commercial and construction law, forensic investigations and administrative law. Visit hahnlaw.co.za. That's HAHN. We assist clients nationwide. Hahn and Hahn Attorneys, because we care. Don't miss Legal Talk with Hahn and Hahn Attorneys, Wednesday mornings at 10 on eRadio.